another guy who has a loud microphone with the BYU fans, David Nixon. He is our first guest, former NFL linebacker, BYU great. David, welcome back to BYU Sports Nation.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be back.
You heard the Twitter question, my friend. Bruce Feldman says it isn't that far-fetched for BYU to go 4-0 with Taysom Hill in September. What do you think, David Nixon?
Man, I want to be as optimistic as Bruce. I think it's going to be more like something like 3-1. And the reason I say that is because you have 4 obviously tough games. And as a former player, it's tough week in and week out against great opponents to stay mentally sharp, stay healthy. There's a lot of components to go into it. And I think that somewhere in there you slip up on a game, and especially this early in the season. I mean, to be this sharp and on the ball this early in the season is tough because typically, your first few games you'll see with the SEC and other teams, they play opponents that they kind of can warm up and make sure they're rolling on all cylinders and that they've worked out all the kinks. Whereas with BYU, you're coming straight out of the gates hot against Nebraska, Boise State, UCLA, Michigan. I just feel like there's going to be one of those games. I don't know if it's Nebraska. I can't say which one it is, but I think one of those games might be a close loss, as you guys were just mentioning, with Taysom at the helm. I think 3-1 still is obviously very respectable with that type of schedule.
There's an opportunity to certainly make some noise, and 4-0 is not, the 3-1 would be amazing out of that. Part of my hesitation with embracing 4-0, or even 3-1 for that matter, is the fact that 3 are on the road, David. How much tougher is it going to be for BYU in September because 3 are on the road?
It's tough. I mean, although, you talk to players, and I remember sometimes on the road is actually, and I think we've talked about this on the radio show before, it's actually sometimes easier in the fact that you're much more focused. You're away from all distractions of family usually being there, or girlfriends, wives, whatever it may be. When you're at home, on the road, you're focused and as a team, and you're preparing. You're maybe staying after watching a little more film because you have the time on the road in the hotel. And so, on the road is not a terrible thing, but when you're playing on the road in Lincoln and playing on the road in the Big House, you're now dealing with crowds that maybe you wouldn't be dealing with if you're playing on the road at Connecticut or at East Carolina or any of these other teams. So it does pose a whole different challenge to BYU, but at the same time, I mean, as a player, if you can't get up for those games and be focused and be ready for those games, then something's wrong with you because those are the biggest venues you'll play in.
David, we compared Taysom Hill to Captain America. Yeah, I know it's kind of funny, but in all seriousness, Captain America to the Avengers is that hope and leadership. He's kind of the tie that binds, if you will. And with Taysom on this football team, I feel like he is that guy. In your opinion, what does he mean to the team as a leader and motivator?
Man, he is the anchor. And last year when he went out, I talked to a lot of other players that said it was the biggest thing about Taysom. Obviously, his athletic talent on the field was they missed that a lot, but it was his leadership in the locker room and having him around because not only is he a great leader, but he's a fun guy to be around. I mean, obviously, I've got to know him real well and around him quite a bit, and he's just a stud, and he's fun to be around. He jokes around. I think he's very he's friendly with the other guys in the sense that he makes sure everyone feels included. And that's exactly what you want in a leader. And I think last year, after he broke his leg and he was out, he literally couldn't walk on it or be vertical on it for a few weeks and wasn't around. Talking to a few other players, they mentioned that was probably the hardest thing. Obviously missing him on the field is tough, but having him around in the locker room is even tough. Not having there it was even tougher. So, no question. I think Captain America is, I guess, a good analogy. But no doubt that he is the rock of this team, and everyone keeps going back to if he can stay healthy, and that's what everyone in the national public says that if he can stay healthy, this could be a special season. I believe the same thing, and it's not only from the athletic standpoint, the talent standpoint, but from that leadership standpoint and from the knowledge he has of the game, from being around, being a starter, and now going up against these tough teams. It could be something special, and I know he obviously wants to stay healthy, and he's going to do everything he can to stay healthy. I think all Cougar fans, every time he goes to run, will be holding their breath, hoping that he can slide or get down.
As tough as this schedule is, David, I don't see a single game where I go, BYU's got no shot to win. They've got a shot to win every single game, UCLA being the toughest of those games, yet I think BYU will have a nice crowd at that game. The nice thing is BYU's got tremendous offense led by Taysom Hill. My concern is that BYU's running with the same workflow as last year, which is, offense, put up a bunch of points, defense, make enough plays, hopefully Taysom stays healthy. Do you have any concern that that's the same, that BYU's running the same workflow?
Well, first address to your first comment, I agree. I don't think there's any game on the schedule of BYU you look at and you say, man, they have no chance. I mean, every team, even the big names, Nebraska, Michigan, UCLA, all of them are fighting or they're up against, new coaches or replacing key players, quarterbacks, whatever it may be. So I agree with you. I think BYU has a chance in every one. But going back to the defense, I agree. There's a lot of question marks with this defense. Can they put it all together? Secondary, we lost a lot of talent, a lot of leadership in that secondary. Can they piece the right guys together to make that unit work? Linebackers, we saw last year a lot of guys getting in rotation. We saw different type of combos at middle backer, outside backer, different guys kind of experimenting, tossing guys around, moving them around. Can they put the right pieces in place? Can Taki pull through? Can Fred Warner stay healthy also? And can he be that big playmaker that you always need at the outside linebacker position? Can we have that leader emerge at the middle linebacker position? And then our defensive line, can they plug the holes? I mean, Bronson Kafusi kind of moving more towards that defensive end position this year. How's he going to fare? So, there's no question. There's a lot of question marks. And I think it was last time we came on, I talked about Bronco now being at the helm. I really do think you'll see a different BYU defense, and it might not be the most talented we've seen in the past, but when Bronco takes the helm, he gets the most out of his players because he demands that everyone is perfect in their assignment. And, we hear that phrase, assignment sound, and he harps on that. And I think you'll see that with this BYU defense this year is you might not have the biggest and best players that, BYU defense have had in the past, but I think you'll see guys being where they're supposed to be. And in AFR, each week last season, we're showing guys that just weren't doing their assignments and they were busted coverages, busted defenses. But I think this year, I don't think you'll see those mental mistakes for the fact that players, they're going to have to answer to the head man, Coach Minhall, and that defensive meeting come Monday when you're looking over the film. And, for me, the player, I definitely did not want to mess up because I didn't want to have to answer to Coach Minhall. And so I think he instills that same fear into these players. And hopefully this year that unit can come together and put something special on the field.
Former NFL and BYU linebacker great David Nixon joining BYU Sports Nation. David, you grew up in the heart of Texas A&M area, specifically in College Station. But we've been talking over the past few weeks because the national media has in large part been featuring BYU as a major part of their Big 12 expansion conversation. So, with you being a Texas guy, what is your sales pitch to the Big 12 regents for BYU's inclusion?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. I did grow up right there, and obviously the landscape has changed a little bit with A&M now in the SEC and the Big 12 now not being the Big 12 and including people. But I think the biggest thing, if Bronco and Tom Homo could go and talk to all the other coaches and ADs and presidents of universities, I think you go in with a sales pitch of saying, look, we pride ourselves on tradition. We pride ourselves on reputation, and I know that's exactly what the Big 12. I mean, that's their history they have is something they pride themselves on there as well. And I think BYU, you can go in there and say, look, we've had Heisman Trophy winners, we've had Outland Trophy winners, Doak Walker, Davey O'Brien. We've had those players that have showed their talents on the field. We've got that tradition in our program. We've got the reputation, and we've got national championship. We've got multiple conference championships throughout the years, and we've come and played your guys and we beat them. I think BYU has a great sales pitch, and then of course you put yourself up against like a Kansas or one of the lower tier schools in the Big 12 to kind of stack yourself up against them. But I think you got to go in there with, once again, tradition, reputation, and try to taunt that as much as you can because. That's basically all we've got at this point. Geographically, yeah, we're not the best fit. I mean, we're further west, but nor is West Virginia. So there's your counterpoint. So, I'm not sure what the pitch is. I'm not sure if we'll ever have the opportunity to pitch it. But I am glad to see that there is a little bit of buzz in the national media about BYU possibly being included one of these days because I am a firm believer that we need to be in a conference at some point. I think this independence is working out fine. I mean, look at the schedule this year. I know people joke about our home schedule, but if you look forward in the future, all these teams repay visits to Provo, so they will come. But no doubt that BYU eventually needs to get into the Big 12.
I'm okay with Boise State and Cincinnati. I think those are good games at home. And then just wait, 2016, UCLA and Mississippi State at home. That's going to be just dandy.
Yeah, and then you got Michigan State coming here. I mean, that's
USC,
what I tell
Stanford.
That's what I tell people all the time is people will get a little impatient, but we're only, what, five years into this independence thing? I mean, you can't go out and declare independence and then the next year have all these big schools coming into your house. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to have some leeway, and sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. We have to go play these guys, and they'll repay the visit eventually in the future. And I think you're right. In 16, 17, moving forward, we'll start seeing some of those teams coming to Provo. And then I think that's where fans will be a little happier with our home schedules.
When the United States declared independence in 1776, did they have the world's most high-profile guest in 1781? I don't think so. It takes a little bit of time. It's okay.
Jeremy got a July 4th reference in there.
Thanks, Darren, for the history lesson.
The Founding Fathers, Tommy Homo and the Founding Fathers.